So, hi there. Welcome, everybody, to what we call Cast Iron Wednesday. This, of course, is a regular series of videos that a lot of YouTube channels have been doing on Wednesdays. Basically, they do a video about cast iron, whether it's cooking in cast iron or just showing off your cast iron. Not that I'm doing that, mind you. Or otherwise identifying, restoring, or otherwise talking about cast iron cookware. The subject seems to be unending, and that's why we've been doing videos on this for here on this channel at least for more than 3 years now. This is one of the few that does a live cooking show, largely because, well, I guess I'm a masochist. But nonetheless, I guess folks do seem to appreciate it because you folks have been kind enough to show up each week, and as always, I can only thank you so much for that. I mean, that's really what makes this so much fun. I enjoy seeing regular names here, and I enjoy seeing new names here as well. Like, hello, for instance, to Doedy Man or Doedy Man. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Hello, welcome to our little chat here. And hello, Terry Sinchev. I hear your surgery went okay, so congratulations for that. Hello, Cynthia Wesley and Corey Clark and Pat Z, Rights Trump Policy. Val's Black Cat's rule says she's going to be lurking, which is perfectly fine. I appreciate everybody who's kind enough to just show up here, although audience participation is certainly encouraged, especially this week where for the first Monday, for the first Cast Down Wednesday of the month, we've pretty much been taking it easy, more or less, in having a Q&A session, so that I don't have to rush around on camera and make a huge mess in the kitchen. Especially since I already did that 2 days ago when I made gumbo here on YouTube Live. The gumbo turned out great, quite frankly, and I was quite happy with that. And I was able to share at least a little bit of it on Halloween yesterday. So again, I'm quite happy about that. And yes, hello, JIR finishes, and there's Val's Black Cats. And yeah, I mean, Val's Black Cats rules. I believe you also live here in New York. Then, as you know, we had our first snowfall of the season today for like maybe about 5 minutes or so. We got some flecks of snow coming down. No, it didn't stick at all or anything like that, but it was definitely snow. Oh, yeah, that time of the year is here again. Halloween is over, meaning that all of the Halloween stuff is already down in the stores. And of course, you know what they have. They have Christmas everywhere you look now in the stores between now and, well, next year. um, it seems like, of course, a lot of stores, they pay lip service to that other big holiday that's coming up here in November. Of course, that would be Thanksgiving, which is something that naturally we pay a lot of attention to. But nonetheless, that's how it is. And that's why I noticed today at Walmart that the cast iron cookie skillets are back. You know, those tiny little, in fact, let me pull one out, which I have right here. Here we are. Yeah, I'm talking about these things. You know, these tiny little cast iron skillets that they sell at Walmart. They're back again. I saw them in the stores today. And interestingly enough, the price of this has gone back down to $5 again. Last year, it seems that they were raising the price on everything, and they raised these to about $6. But now they're back down to 5 again. So that means, of course, if you want to, that is, you can get them for stocking stuffers. A lot of people really love these things. And, you know, it's interesting, too, because you know how all of the people, so many folks out there, they talk about, oh, I only buy American cast iron. You know, no way will I ever touch that cheap Asian stuff. And yet, whenever these Walmart pens come out each year, there's a rush on them, especially in the cast iron community that I see on Facebook and also on the internet. People go out of their way hunting for these things, and well, they are nice little cast iron pans. They're really not much more than griddles, but nonetheless, oh great, Mobley's found my laptop bag. Okay, but yeah, these are Yeah, again, they're just that. They're enough, maybe like they're smaller, quite frankly, than a number three size vintage cast iron skillet. Let's pull one out right here, right now, shall we? I mean, here we've got none other than a slant logo Griswold number three here, and these little tiny cast iron skillets, as you can see, are quite much smaller than this number three. So yeah, that just shows you how just that how cheap these things are. Even so, for some folks, it's worth the $5 purchase. And then on the other hand, there is still the possibility that you may go hunting in the after Christmas clearance sales. And you may still be able to score one of these for half price, which might actually be worth it then. Especially since, as you know, they come with this terrible cookie mix that has like maybe six chocolate chips in it, and the end result of the cookie that you make with it is really not that great. Especially if you've been making homemade chocolate chip cookies in your cast iron, whether or not you're using homemade dough or even store-bought dough. It's still better than the stuff they have in the Walmart things. So what we recommend really for these things is that if you get one of these, we'll give it away. Um, Throw out the cookie mix and just use the cast iron pan. Yes, here it is. So nobody cares about the Walmart pans. Oh, I'm not so sure about that. As I said, these things actually seem to sell very well. And in the cast iron community, like on the cast iron cooking group on Facebook, a lot of people really enjoy getting these things. So, and as you can see, I have a couple myself. So I wouldn't say nobody cares. I volunteer all mine off. I got a million. Can't give them away. Yes, exactly. So, well, looking forward to this. Well, thank you very much, Jim F. And yeah, they'd be great to serve a hamburger on. You're exactly right, actually. I mean, you could even use this as a serving platter. If you don't want to bother cooking with it, it would be just that. You can indeed make a burger and put it on here, and why not? So, okay, do a turkey live. Considering that I do a turkey video, it seems like every year. That may very well be in the cards. We still have a couple of weeks to see how that all turns out. So, Walmart has Halloween candy 50% off. Yes, I noticed that. I mean, I have been whining every time how after Thanksgiving, it seems as though the stores just stock away the good candy, and all they leave out is the terrible candy. This year, again, I was at Walmart today, and that didn't seem to be the case. They had boxes and boxes of all of their candy stuff at 50% off, and we're talking the good stuff. The bags of the Reese's and the M&Ms and the Snickers and all those things. Yeah, they were indeed at a 50% off price. So I'm actually surprised. Between that and them lowering the prices on these skillets, I'll like it or not. I guess we could say Walmart must be having a banner year. So, and yeah, folks can argue about that in any number of places because there's a lot of politics involved for that. All I know is that at least, if nothing else, we get some half-price candy today, and these cookie skillets are still $5. So, yeah, ran my AC this afternoon. Well, good for you, Clico. I mean, you're certainly making the rest of us jealous, no question about that. Cook a single brownie in one of those pans. Yeah, some of these do come with a brownie mix, which is also really not that great. So I would, again, definitely recommend making your own mix to go, whether it's brownie or what is the width of these cookie skillets? This is a little more than 5 inches across. So yeah, that's almost a full inch smaller than the 6 inches you would get from a number three size cast iron skillet. So yeah, these things are pretty small. Honey Badger, the little pans are good car window breakers if you get stuck in your car. I have one under the front seat and in the glove box. Well, why not? And I would agree with that. So yeah, oh yeah, keeping cast iron in your car. No, that's not a sign of cast ironitis. No, not at all. Okay. Are you still hunting for vintage cast iron? On one hand, yes, I am. I'm still keeping an eye out for good bargains. I mean, granted, with my collection the way it is, I'm not going out of my way to increase it. So, because this, I mean, I am doing my best really to try to work my way through my collection as it is with my regular videos and everything. So that's why I have not been obsessively hunting cast iron, but I still do go to sales. This year, that seems like the circumstances were not going in my favor, and so I actually had to pass up on a couple of the big sales, like Boukville or even Brimfield. But nonetheless, I am still indeed hunting because you never know what you're going to find. I mean, after all, what can I say? Especially when, um, here are a couple of things I found recently. Okay, for one, I was out yard sailing maybe I think a month or two ago, and that was when I happened to come across a Griswold type top lid here. And I believe I paid all of maybe, what was it? I think $4 or was it $8 for it? So yeah, and as you can see, this thing cleaned up nicely as well. So you definitely do want to keep an eye out for bargains, no question about that. On the other hand, here's one that I actually couldn't resist picking up, even though once again it's an Asian made pan. And folks may very well say, what's so special about an Asian made pan? Why did you bother picking this one up? Never mind cleaning it up. Well, this is quite frankly, I think this is the pan that they used as the model for the cast iron frying pan in Disney's Tangled. I have seen this a number of times out there, and every time I see this particular one, I think it looks exactly like the Tangled frying pan. The one thing this has that the movie doesn't, of course, is a logo on it. And yes, as I said, this is Asian made. But the interesting thing about this is, especially, it has a very long, very thin handle. So that really does seem to make this thing almost exactly like the pan that they had entangled. And so, kind of like really just for novelty reasons, I just couldn't resist getting this thing. I'm not sure if I'm going to end up giving it away or not. I mean, if the opportunity had arisen, I probably would have donated it this Halloween, for instance, to use as part of a costume. But now, nonetheless, that's what it is. So, yeah, there we go. Frying pans. Who knew? Ha! Okay. All you need is a cast iron stove to finish everything off. Well, I am not at that point, and I'm not sure if I'm ever going to be at that point. I mean, granted, now that I'm in my own home, I could indeed get a cast iron stove if I wanted to, but I don't think I can, unfortunately, afford one of those unless I were to get one that was practically falling apart and make a huge effort that would probably take weeks or more to actually clean it up. So, as it is, I've only spent the last year getting used to my gas stove, so I'm not sure if I'm ready to upgrade to a full cast iron stove yet. What is your holy grail? Okay, well, thank you for the questions. And what is your holy grail that you are still looking for in that collection? I'm proud of my collection. I'm not sure if I'd call it incredible, but thank you very much, Greg Hart. Well, my holy grail that I'm looking for still, I think, would be a Birmingham Stove and Range number 13, or rather a 13-inch camp oven from BS&R, especially so that let's do this, especially so that it would go with this lid, one of my favorite lids in my collection here. This is a 13-inch camp oven lid from BS&R from their Red Mountain days. It's actually kind of pitted, which indicates that this thing probably was used with a lot of coals. There was probably a lot of coal cooking done on this, especially since the underside of this is still pristine even after all these years. So 13 is a very unusual size, and that's why, if anything, my holy grail would be to find a Birmingham Stove and Range Red Mountain spider or camp oven to actually fit this lid. So if there's anything I would probably consider a holy grail, it would probably be that. So I may very well end up looking for the rest of my life because the camp ovens in particular that they made in the Red Mountain days were so extremely rare that BSNR actually discontinued them even during their own production days. There is a copy of a catalog available for BSNR's Red Mountain on the internet that actually shows those camp ovens and spiders as having been discontinued. So that just shows how rare they are. There was a period when Birmingham Stove and Range was simply not making those anymore. Then they went into their mass production, their automated production in the 1960s, and that's when they brought back their camp ovens and their spiders as well in the Century Cookware series. But nonetheless, I would definitely call this my particular holy grail. I mean, no, it's not a Griswold, but it's definitely an extremely rare cast iron pan, and it is certainly one I would be quite happy to acquire. So thank you very much. About what year was that lid made? Um, this is part of the BSNR Red Mountain series. And when I first had this, when this was first identified, there is a Facebook group as well for BSNR collectors, and it's actually called BSR Lodge and Hammered Cast Iron. And when they first identified this, they thought that because it was a 13-inch, they thought it was very old, meaning that it's likely from the 1930s, possibly, although nobody can guarantee it, even earlier. So maybe even the 1920s. So yeah, this is definitely a vintage piece, even though because it doesn't have the Griswold logo, it would not fetch an incredible price if this were to be found at an antique market. So I definitely consider this a very lucky score. Oy. Ah. And sounds like a real collector there. Well, I certainly hope so. So yes, and Mark Sieber. No, it's definitely not a lodge. You can tell, especially it's not a lodge because again of the markings on it. The fact that it says 13 inches. This again was something that BS&R did. And as far as I know, none of the other major manufacturers did that. BS&R didn't even do this with their skillets until their Century Cookware series. So for regular use, what cast iron? Oh, S Rose 40. For regular use, what cast iron pans would you say are essential? Well, I couldn't say all of them, but I mean, without a doubt, and I'm sure any number of people would agree with this, namely that if there's one pan you absolutely need in your collection for regular everyday cooking, it would be a number 8 sized 10-inch or roughly or a little more than 10-inch cast iron skillet. Whether it's modern or vintage, either way, you absolutely need at least one number 8 cast iron skillets. I mean, this would be the first thing that you would want to buy. Whether you go to Walmart and buy yourself a Walmart 10-inch skillet, or if you have one passed down from your grandma or your great grandma, or you manage to find one at a decent price at a yard sale or an antique market. I would definitely say this would be the first thing to go for as far as everyday cooking is concerned. In my case, I've had more than enough of these number 8 skillets. In fact, I recently counted them and found out I have 15 just number 8 skillets in themselves. So that's definitely the first thing I would encourage anybody to go to. Beyond that, um, for a second cast iron pan, well, I would say you should probably go for a Dutch oven. And that's where some people, quite a few people, in fact, would probably recommend an enamel Dutch oven and an enamel cast iron Dutch oven. And they are indeed very, very useful. I have a few of those myself, and I do my best to get some use out of them. Although and this does not seem to be the case on many YouTube channels, but I have a great enjoyment for bare cast iron Dutch ovens, not the enameled ones, including this, which again is BS&R, Birmingham Stove and Range. And this is definitely something I would very much recommend here. This is the number 8 Red Mountain Dutch oven, which again is something that is a good size. This is about 4.5 quarts. And this is a very useful size. In fact, Lodge sells something similar to this and very slightly bigger. They're 5-quart Dutch oven. So I would definitely suggest that if you want to, yeah. So if you wonder what pans would be best for everyday cooking, I would definitely say a 10-inch skillet and possibly a Dutch oven. A lot of my other everyday cooking includes things like the Lodge 14-inch wok, for instance. And then we can go on and get into more specialty pans, like a griddle, for example. But that's really something that would become more people's personal preference. So I'm still looking for the BSR Sportsman Grill or the Lodge Sportsman Grill. I mean, I know Lodge redesigned the Sportsman Grill within the last couple of years or so. But even so, the design of the BSR Sportsman Grill remained largely the same when Lodge took it over in the early 1990s, and they produced it up until only the last couple of years or so. So you should still have a good chance of finding that in the vintage treasure hunt. Harry Sinchef, my BSNR number 8 skillet is a century and it's my go-to for steaks. Yes, exactly. That's the point. Well, you can cook just about anything in a number 8 cast iron skillet. So, yes, and then a Dutch oven, says Rocket Caver. Will a Lodge 10 lid fit a Wagner 10, number 10? I have never, well, no. No, I have had a couple of Wagner number 10s, unmarked Wagner number 10s, and I ended up either selling them or donating them. It's been a while since I've had a Lodge 12-inch skillet, which is essentially a Lodge number 10. We do know that a Lodge number 8 lid will fit a Wagner number 8. And I would say it would be most likely the case that a Lodge lid would fit a Wagner number 10. Um, if you're saying that you have a Wagner number 10 and you want to get a cast iron lid for it, I would probably want to double check that. I mean, initially, I would probably say that there's enough of a chance that you could probably take a risk and get a Lodge number 10 or a 12-inch lid for it. In fact, yeah, that's right. The markings of an unmarked Wagner number 10 says 11 and 3/4 inch skillet. So as long as a Lodge lid would fit that, then that would mean yes, you would be able to fit a Lodge lid on that pan. So yeah. Deep Hell Pal, my holy grail is any vintage pan that doesn't spin. Yeah, that's certainly something rare. Get yourself a number 8 glass lid. That's not a bad plan either. David, the Sportsman Grill getting hard to find and expensive. I picked one up years ago by luck, $30. Well, yeah, because they're no longer producing them, the price is going to be going up. That's almost certainly the case. But there are still quite a few of them out there, and you may very well be lucky in that respect. Lodge lids will fit Wagner of any size. Okay, well, there's somebody else pretty much reassuring you that it sounds like if you do have a Wagner number 10, it's worth taking the chance and getting a Lodge 12-inch lid for it. Nothing is real. Nothing is real, and everything is permitted. Triple X. Kelton, it won't matter on glass cooktop, but if it spins like a top, you'll probably have uneven heating. There is that risk, unfortunately. So, and yes, hello, Kelton McNair as well. Dane, I would gladly pay that. Hey, $30. I don't blame you, not at all. Um, it's, let me make sure I haven't missed anything here as well. I'm currently looking at Kelton McNair. I'm currently looking at some older cast iron limited to an electric glass cooktop. Cooktop? How well do you imagine cast iron with smoke rings bears on this type of cooktop with heating in the center? I would say that it should still work. It would mean, because it would still get pretty hot. The actual contact point, in fact, would be more around the heat ring. So that might actually work out well. It may help to give more even heating, perhaps, to your pan. It may take longer to heat up, though, than if you had an electric coil stove or a gas stove. So, for that reason, I would say yes, it would work, but you would probably have better luck with a flat bottomed cast iron pan on your glass stovetop. Oh, and by the way, yes, you can use glass cast iron on a glass stovetop. It is reinforced to the point where, although you do have to be careful, a lot of people report that they can use their cast iron on a glass stovetop, and in general, it doesn't scratch. But the real risk is dropping it. So you definitely just have to keep that in mind. What do you think about single notch lodge? Because I think they're as nice as a Griswold, and I would agree with you on that. Although, of course, a single notch lodge is still heavier than a Griswold. That is my personal preference. I like cooking with the thicker cast iron. I think you get better heating from a thicker cast iron pot. And for that reason, I would probably say a single notch lodge would probably be, in terms of quality anyway, as well as a Griswold. So let me see if I call it? Yeah, okay. So in fact, clang, clang, clang. Let's pull one out, shall we? Here is a number 5 single notch lodge. With a maker's mark on the bottom as well, or a mold ID, or whatever they use these for. But yeah, as you can see, it has the single notch on the top. It's a number 5 skillet. And Lodge has never changed the size of their pans, not from their earliest days. So a lid for a modern day number 5 Lodge should still fit on this. Likewise, this should still be roughly about the same size and as a modern day Lodge 8-inch skillet. So they certainly do look like this would be pretty much the same here. Here's the one notch, and here's the modern day Lodge. So yeah, but yes, I mean, back in those days, Lodge definitely did a great job smoothing this pan. Lodge definitely did a great job smoothing this pan out. So this is indeed was quite a find, and that's why I really didn't want to pass this up when I came across it. So yeah, having a collection of number of single notch lodges would probably be even more interesting than a collection of Griswolds, because they sell Griswold everywhere, often at inflated prices. But it's much easier to acquire a Griswold for precisely that reason. That is so true. I have given slight spinners to friends that have gas stoves, as it does not matter, and I agree there. In fact, that's what I've given to some of my dearest friends. I gave them, in fact, a number 10 Wagner that is, in fact, a slight spinner, and they use it just fine on their electric stove top as well as gas. So it will work the same. Don't do it, you'll break the pan. What are we talking about here? Deepal, don't do it, you'll break the pan. Deepal, gas rules all stoves. What am I missing? I wonder if it would be possible to heat a spinner with a mat torch and pound the bulge out of a spinner. No. Okay, yeah, no. Deepal Pal, they are correct. There are, in fact, a few videos out there on YouTube where somebody actually tries that. He does indeed heat up a spinner to the point where it is really, really hot. I think almost red hot, and he actually does try pounding the warp out. In every single instance, the pan has cracked. So I don't think there's ever been a single case, unfortunately, where somebody has been successfully able to flatten a warped pan. Like it or not, it is permanent, and they're about the only way really to flatten a warp pan would be to further damage it by getting yourself a grinder and actually grinding it smooth. There would still be a warp on the bottom, and it would be thinner in the part that was ground down. But that's about the only way you could successfully smoothen a crack or a warp, I should say. Rick Stumba, love my number 8 BSR, my TCP. Um, okay. And what else do we have here? I recently found an interesting pod that was Danish in origin, a beautiful pot with markings and H. Are you familiar with any European cast iron? Regrettably, I'm sorry to say, my knowledge of European cast iron is very limited, unfortunately. I regret that, but I'm not an encyclopedia. There are folks here on the internet who have much more encyclopedic knowledge of cast iron than I do, I'm sorry to say. I know enough to be considered, I guess I could say I'm a layman. I do know some details and trivia, especially where Birmingham Stove and Range is concerned, but European cast iron, my knowledge is very limited, unfortunately. I mean, I know about how, not, it wasn't Copco, it was how Coussances, for instance, was actually bought out by Le Creuset some time ago. And as a result, a Coussances pan is definitely worth something. But that's about all I know, unfortunately, about European cast iron, I'm sorry to say. So yeah, yes, Mark, like broke handle pans. Work pan equals baking pan. That's one way to do it. Although, as you said, if you have a gas top stove, you could still use it with no problem at all. I thought maybe the heat would make it more malleable. No, it just doesn't work. So please don't think we're coming down on you for this. We're just simply telling you outright, based on our experience or what we've seen on YouTube, that no, it doesn't work, I'm afraid. I should probably say yet again that in fact, my large 14-inch pan is a spinner. I managed to warp it, not pan, my wok. Yes, let's move this to the side. I'm referring to my big, thick, heavy, modern day Lodge Pro Logic cast iron wok. Um, I acquired this wok, as I mentioned before, in 2000, in January of 2011. And this was the first piece of cast iron, in fact, that I actually purchased using an Amazon gift card. But this is the one that I actually chose to purchase for myself, my first pan. And I got a lot of use out of this wok. Anybody who has the Lodge wok knows that the bottom of this is very, very thick. And yet I managed to warp it. That's because in my early days of learning how to cook in cast iron, I did make the same mistake that a lot of people do when they're first learning to cook in cast iron. I turned my heat up far too hot. I was regularly cooking with this thing at its maximum setting on an electric stove. It got to the point where I would regularly have where I would see little grease fires pop up. It was not uncommon for me for to just get a poof, and then lo and behold, there would be fire in this thing. So I would throw pepper, ground pepper onto this, and uh, it would instantly burn and become red ash, red hot ash. So yeah. And as a result, because of this, I actually managed to warp it. And this thing does not sit flat on a smooth surface, unfortunately. On the other hand, this wok may be about the only pan I have where the warping probably improves it, because a wok is intentionally designed with a sweet spot in the center, the very center. That's the part that actually is supposed to get hotter. And so I think the warping actually helps this. It's not something I'd recommend. I'm not going to tell you to go out and warp your own cast iron wok, but especially because it sits well on my on my burners of my gas stove, I actually still enjoy making stir fries in this wok. So, so yes, and that also shows you that yeah, I have made more than my fair share of mistakes as well, and I'm still trying to atone for them myself. So, Wisdom Studio, I've totally caught the cast iron bug, but I've been documenting my search for pans. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad we've been able to help. So, will heavy fire destroy my lodge? Okay, here we go with the question about fire. Fire cleaning versus cooking over a fire in cast iron. And this is the part that always upsets people when a number of us, myself included, tell you don't throw your cast iron into a fire. Yeah, we're talking about when you've just found it and it's covered with gunk and there's probably some residual rust as well. And the advice that someone will almost always give you, my dad of all people gave me that advice when I had this rusty griddle as well. He said to go camping with it and to throw it into a big fire. It'll burn off the rust. It doesn't do that. That doesn't work. Yes, the fire can burn off seasoning. There is no old seasoning. There's certainly no denying that. And that's the big reason why a lot of people do it. However, this is the thing about fire cleaning in that, yes, it can damage your cast iron, including your lodge. I'm talking about actually putting it into a big campfire, not cooking over a campfire, which is really what it's designed to do because you've got some distance. The fire itself is, well, it's still hot, of course, but it's not the same as being surrounded by red hot coals. But it will eventually damage your cast iron, and that's the part that people argue about because the idea is we hear people saying, I've cooked all my life. No, I've been cleaning my cast iron in the fire in my entire life, and my cast iron looks as good as new. Yeah, well, I call BS on that because when over time it's likely that a cast iron pan can be damaged by being put into a big fire like that. There is only a very small chance that at any time you could indeed crack or warp or otherwise damage a cast iron pan by throwing it into a fire. The chances of it are not very great, but the chance is still there. And over time, it's almost certain that it will happen eventually. And that's the big reason why we don't recommend cleaning your cast iron in a fire, because eventually that time will come and your pan will suffer the consequences from it. Meanwhile, it's actually not that hard to permanently damage a pan and give it that reddish color that is also permanent, the reddish color that shows, and it especially shows up if you take photographs of it. The reddish color that pretty much indicates that this pan has been cleaned in a fire. And I do have a couple of fire damaged pans as well, and they are the same. Then they do that. So yes, um, all of that. While it's true that a lot of antique vendors still sell those cast iron pans, those fire damaged pans, even at full price, because well, they don't think that they're damaged. But any serious user and collector of cast iron will know that a pan has been fire damaged. So we do not recommend it. On the cast iron cooking group, they've actually posted photographs of people using microscopes, or I don't know if it was an electron microscope, but it might very well have been. They actually took a cast iron pan and did a very big magnification of the surface of a fire damaged pan, and you could see that that pan had definitely been damaged. I mean, any cast iron pan does in fact have pits and cracks in the surface, even after it's been smoothed down. That's what they call the pores. And no, cast iron is not porous, but a fire damaged pan has unquestionably more than just little pits and cracks. I mean, the metal of the pan has in fact been damaged, and that is permanent. There are some people who say that that damage might only be skin deep, and I would probably disagree with that. But nonetheless, it's really almost on a case by case basis. So, okay, I like the camera on the pans. Okay, Yeah, temperature shock is the worst for cast iron. Well, there is that too. So you certainly do have to be careful in that respect. Wisdom Studio. Recently, I picked up a large stew pot. I posted on Facebook asking for info, and I got DM'd by a bunch of people wanting to buy my pan. I couldn't find a comparable sale on eBay. How to ID rarity? Rarity. Well, I would indeed say post a photo in a group where they would certainly be able to identify it. Yes, I would ask if you could send me a photo of it, for example, and I can almost guarantee you that I'm not going to offer to buy it. But I'd be happy to help to identify it. There are also groups out there that will also be happy to identify it, such as the Cast Iron Cooking Group on Facebook, for one. There are several other collector groups on Facebook as well that are more than happy to help you to identify that pan. There's even a Reddit group, Reddit Cast Iron, R Cast Iron, and they would also be more than happy to help you to identify it. So I would definitely say ask on the internet and you will be able to get some information on it. There are also some very general rules of thumb you can follow. Hi, Mobley. Aw, Mobley's lying there looking all cute. um, yeah, one second. I got put. Anyway, there are definitely some groups on. Yeah, I'm saying some traits that older cast iron pots have that can help you to identify their age there, especially if you're talking about the big cauldrons, for instance. Those big round cauldrons. Typically, if your cauldron has a flat top ears, like this one, for instance. Ugh, I think this is an actual vintage cast iron cauldron, even though I don't have any way to actually date it because of the way these ears are shaped here. You see the flat top ears here. Those were much more common in the 1800s and even going back to the 1700s, but I don't think this is a 1700s pot. Whereas by the time manufacturing technology changed around the 20th century or so, we started seeing many more pots that had rounded ears instead of these flat top ears. That's not always the case. They were doing rounded ears even in the older days, and they were doing flat top ears even in the later days. But in general, the trends seem to be that these flat top ears helped to identify that this would be an older pan or pot in this case. Whereas the rounded ears would probably mean it's more closer to 20th century make. And oh, by the way, this is the pot that I did my Halloween candy in last night. Yeah, this big huge thing here, I had filled up with candy almost to the top, and this is probably half gone or maybe more than half gone. I did pretty good, all things considered, here in my neighborhood. It's generally agreed, it seems like my neighborhood is not the busiest one for Halloween traffic. Kids. It's not one of those ones that gets dozens and hundreds of kids every year. I'm not that lucky. And yet, over the course of the evening, I still managed to get, um, all told, we kept count roughly, and I think I got maybe almost 3 dozen kids of all ages, including their parents. So yeah, over 30 people showed up in at my door to get candy. So I'm actually stoked about that. That was actually the best Halloween trick or treating I've done in years. So it certainly helped that I had a friend staying with me yesterday, and she actually went out on the street and pointed people in my direction to get them to show up here and get candy. So, so that certainly helped. I guess I should say, thanks to her, I also heard some of the neighborhood gossip, and I found out what the neighborhood thinks of me, which is never good. You know what neighborhood gossip is like in just about any place in any town. But yeah, because it seems that among other things, she actually went to the apartment building across the street where she lived, and she asked one of her neighbors to send her kids over to my place so that they could get some candy. And apparently, what their reply was, "Oh, him, he's weird." And apparently, they're not the only ones to say that. Yeah, it seems that a number of the folks think I'm weird. So, to which point I could only say, well, no, thank you, Captain Obvious. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? I'm a middle-aged guy living by myself who has this peculiar obsession with collecting old pots and pans. So yeah, I would say that it would be easy enough to consider me weird. And frankly, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that label because for folks who know, I'm a sub genius, and weirdness is definitely something I strive to attain. Deep Hell Pal, I had over 400 kids last night. Oh man, boy. Phew. I'd like to be in your neighborhood because, yeah, that's the type of thing I would like. I would like to be able to give away a ton of candy and actually run out. But it didn't work out that way. And so now, as a result, I'm going to have to use up this leftover candy before I end up eating it. Okay. Um, Let me see. What else do we have here? Klein of Green. I just got a brand new Blacklock Lodge triple season cast iron skillet. Can someone link if I clean it before using it and with what? Oh, okay. Klein of Green. Well, if you're talking about the new cast iron skillet, the new Blacklock cast iron skillet from Lodge, you must mean this one. Because yes, I have one as well. Here is a 10-inch, what they say, a 96 um, Blacklock skillet, which I got this especially so that I could use it as a chef skillet. It's shaped nicely like a chef skillet. It's actually much lighter than a typical Lodge skillet, so I'm quite happy about that. You don't have to season it as once you've purchased it. You can start cooking with this thing right away. However, the factory seasoning is known to event to be not that great, even their so-called triple season Blacklock. So, as such, I wouldn't be surprised if after several times you cook with this, you'll find that the seasoning may very well start coming off already. So, I would probably recommend that you might want to consider giving it an extra coating or two of seasoning. Or if you have a live tank, you could strip it completely and season it yourself. However, either way, you can indeed cook with this right away. And you might even want to consider just doing that. Just keep cooking with it. Make sure you give it a little bit of grease and dry it off over your heat after you cooked with it, and do this every time. And you should get a good amount of seasoning on this pan, just like that, because the best way to take care of a cast iron pan is to use it regularly. So, but yeah, this Blacklock skillet is indeed a nice piece of cast iron, and I'm actually quite happy to have this as well. That's why I keep it here with my modern cast iron pans. Yes, the triple season one. Yes, exactly. What's the oldest cast iron you have ever seen? I have been to museums and I have seen 17th century and even like medieval era cast iron, but that was in museums. Out in the wild, I have seen some 17 cast iron from the 1700s. The Baltimore foundry, for instance, made a series of cast iron pots and even some, not many, but some skillets with their logo on them. And that generally would mean that they are indeed from the 1700s, maybe to the early 1800s. So there are a few pans out there from maybe even the 1600s, but I don't think I've ever seen one of those. I've seen quite a few pans from the 19th century, the 1800s. So really, a 1700s pan though is quite rare and much harder to find. And you know what? One reason why pans from the 1700s are more rare, but pans from the 1800s less rare: fire cleaning. How about that? But yeah, I mean, after all, isn't cast iron supposed to last forever? And then folks might say, "Oh, well, yeah, obviously because it was neglected, and they didn't make many pans in the 1700s. No, they actually had a pretty good manufacturing. There was quite a bit of manufacturing going on in the United States in the 1700s. I mean, after all, quite a few of the guns used in the wars of the 1700s were in fact made here in the USA. It wasn't the USA then, I'm sorry, in the colonies. It was made in America. And in fact, they developed the concept and the production of interchangeable parts. I believe that was also developed in the 1700s. So why don't we see a lot more pans from the 1700s? It's not like they were all just lost and rusted away or anything like that, but no, a fair reason why a lot of the really, really older pans are no longer around today was, in fact, fire cleaning. Because that's just it. People would often just flop their dirty old pots onto the fire to clean them, and eventually those things would crack. And so when that happened, that of course meant, well, they'd probably have to find another use for it. Some people might have it repaired. Some people might have just simply gotten a replacement. Because yeah, and here's something else that I've been chastised for, especially when I made this video, this short video here about the 19th century cast iron pans. Like these ones here. I'm not really kind of like going from subject to subject here. I'm still in the same conversation, more or less. But yeah, I've shown off my generic 19th century skillet, which I call Lucky Number 7. This is one of those common pans that came with a set of complementary cookware that you got with if you bought a wood burning stove. But anyway, my point being was that when I did a video about this, I commented how these pans were considered to be actually disposable, and a lot of people took issue to my use of the word disposable. Now, my reason for using the word disposable was not for the family that got these. I mean, yes, I mean for any family, a cast iron pan is a valuable kitchen item, and they often were passed down from generation to generation, which again asks the question, why are there so few pans for the 1700s? But the reason why I said disposable, because despite the fact that they were so valued by families, they were cheaply made. Retailers and manufacturers and sellers didn't think much of these frying pans. I mean, yes, there were companies like Griswold who really made elite frying pans, but this was not made by Griswold. As far as the retailers or the manufacturers was concerned, this was basically like a free giveaway throwaway item. They put a bunch of these together and they gave them away for free or sold them at dirt cheap prices. Just like when you went to the movies in the early 20th century, you'd get a free dish at the Saturday matinee every week. Or if you opened up a bank account, you'd get a free toaster, things like that. So, and besides, again, as far as they were concerned, it was just a frying pan. And so that meant, which comes back to those 1700s pans, if that cast iron pan that had gotten so much use happened to crack when you threw it in the fire, oh well, have it repaired or maybe just get another one. So that's where it comes to. I'm kind of rambling, I admit, but that was really the whole point. A big reason why there are so few cast iron pans from the 1700s was a lot of them were indeed damaged. How? By fire cleaning. I mean, yes, it's true that a number of them were lost or they ended up rusting or otherwise being discarded, but again, usually they'd be passed down from generation to generation, but not so many from those days, because in those days it was very common to just clean them in the fire. So I hope that little story there, I hope it gets to the point. Don't clean cast iron in a fire. because there is a chance you could indeed end up damaging the pans. Mm. Or for that matter, and this will be my last time talking about this, there are quite a few of those spider skillets, with the three legs and the handle out there even today, but far fewer Dutch ovens from the, with the flat bottom Dutch ovens and the lids from the 19th century. They can be found, but they are considered to be very uncommon. Why? For the same reason, because of the way they were cleaned. They were often cleaned in the fire. Okay. Or they go through their hot pan in cold water. Yeah, that's certainly a case as well, G. Humphrey. I will not disagree with you on that. Do you have any Scotch Bowl to show? What's the history of the Scotch Bowl, if you know? I had a Scotch Bowl and I ended up getting rid of it because I've got this collection here and I didn't really have much of a use specifically for a Scotch Bowl. That's just me, though. So yes, yeah, no, I am familiar with the Scotch Bowl though, and in fact, that's one of those items you can find pretty common. You can find a pretty generic Scotch Bowl at many flea markets. Usually, it'll be in poor condition, it'll be rusty, and if you look on the bottom, there will be a gate mark, and maybe that's it. A lot of those, in fact, did not have a manufacturing number. They probably, in fact, were part of those cookware sets that came with wood burning stoves. They were cheap. But anyway, the whole thing about the Scotch Bowl and the reason why it's called the Scotch Bowl and the reason why it's designed that way, it was designed especially for making what was a very popular dish in those days, Scotch broth. And if you look up that recipe online, you'll still be able to find it, Scotch broth, which was an inexpensive and easy dish to prepare, but it was also easy to burn. And the rounded shape of a Scotch bowl was meant especially so that there would be less chance of burning it. So that's kind of where the idea of a Scotch bowl came from. Which, of course, now if you have a Scotch bowl, that also makes a great cast iron wok. So hopefully you'll be able to get a lot of use from it that way. So, Debbie, my first wristwatch was from Green Stamps. I was in heaven. Oh, yeah, good. I have a Scotch Bowl. Well, congratulations, Debbie. And I do hope you get some use out of it. I'm so cool with that watch. Oh, that sounds like it was quite a watch. Cynthia Wesley, Wagner number 4. Oh, congratulations if that's what you have. So, do you have any Scotch Bowl to show? Well, then, anyway, I hope that answers your question, Cast Iron Fanatic. So, um, Corey, I got my Christmas present from my Christmas from Green Stamps. All right, let's see what else do we have. My mom, Corey Clark. My mom got cast iron cookware with her Green Stamps. Yes, indeed. Oh yeah. Green Stamps were just very slightly before my time. I was born in 1967. So, and I mean, as much as I'd heard of Green Stamps, my family did not use Green Stamps. They used food stamps. Yes, we used food stamps regularly when we were in the 70s and we were poor, but not green stamps. So that's, as I said, that's a little bit before my time, I'm afraid. Okay, what else do we have here? Hmm. Maybe I should try that. Dmitry Litovsk. Hey, are grill pattern cast iron pans good? Do they last as long as regular cast irons? Oh, they definitely last as long as regular cast iron. Yes, no problem about that. And you know what? It's actually easy to clean a grill pan. And boy, am I going to get flamed for that one. Yeah, how do you clean those stupid things? Those grill pans. It's actually pretty easy for a couple of reasons. Number one, I mean, you just need to get into those grooves, right? Well, usually a green Scotch Brite Scrubby will fit between those grooves, or steel wool will fit between those grooves, or you get a sheet of aluminum foil and you crumple it up into a ball and you can scrape it along those grooves, or a chainmail scrubber will work great on those grooves, or a cast iron scraper of the kind, those plastic scrapers that lodge cast iron cells. That will also work great on a grill pan. So yes, it's actually not that hard to clean a grill pan. It does require some elbow grease. And the only grill pan that I have is the underside of the cover of my Lodge oval roaster. I don't have a separate grill pan myself. It's something that I have not really had much use for. On the other hand, one of my closest friends just this year had the urge to get herself a grill pan. And she ended and based on she asked me for recommendations, and I recommended she get a Lodge grill pan, the square shaped grill pan, which is probably easier to clean than the circular grill pan, in fact. And she got it and she loves it. And she's been using it very regularly, and she gets a lot of use out of that grill pan. So it's a matter of taste, personal taste. Even though I'm not crazy about grill pans, a lot of people are. So, and it will definitely last as long as a regular cast iron pan, especially with my friend. You know why? Because she's using it regularly. That's why. So I hope that answers that. Basically, if you feel that you have a need for any cast iron pan, whether it's a grill pan or a Scotch bowl or a wok or what have you, if you feel you have a need for it, then I would certainly recommend getting it. David Craig, I've found an early BSR cornbread skillet and a 7S cornbread pan. Looks like corn, both for less than $5. Well, congratulations on that. You got yourself a nice deal there, that's for sure. And yes, I do have in fact have both of those, the cornbread skillet and the cornbread pan, the corn stick pan, I guess they call it. So, and yeah, I mean, while the corn stick pan is definitely a specialty item, the cornbread skillet is I guess you could also call it a specialty item. I mean, granted, people do cook a lot of things other than cornbread in that, they cook brownies. Some people get smart and they even make individual pot pies with them. And then there's the Mudbrooker who took two of those corn stick pans, put them on top of each other, and he made a three-dimensional corn. In fact, I believe he made corn dogs with that. So he was pretty ingenious. I have a brush that gets in the grooves of a grill pan. Oh, I know what you're talking about. You mean one of those brushes that they use for cleaning grill grates and for an outdoor grill. So there you go. But I recently learned, and apparently this is something that everybody should know, and so actually a dummy for not doing this, for not realizing this until recently. There's a very popular wire brush used for cleaning grill pans, and that's just a metal brush with a whole bunch of wires stuck on it. You can poke yourself on those wires, and they're meant especially for cleaning grill pans. Those things are dangerous, and I would have to say don't use them. You know why? Because those little wires could break off and they could get into your food. And reportedly, but I haven't looked yet myself for verification, there are documented cases from people who have actually swallowed those little pieces of wire, those pieces of metal, and they seriously cut their insides on them. So those things really should not be used, not for cleaning cast iron grill grates, not for cleaning cast iron grill pans, not for doing anything that might involve food. There are some other wire brushes, and I have one myself, in fact, that are safer for really cleaning cast iron. But otherwise, and I'm hoping that's not that brush that you're referring to as well. So congratulations to you and Rick D on the 7S's. Yes, exactly, Cynthia Wesley. So you earn green stamps by spending money. The more money you've spent, the more green stamps you got. Oh yeah, you're kind of jogging my memory on this, because even though while we never had green stamps in our house, I had heard of them, and I do believe you are right. Oh boy, this could get political. But boy, gee, that sounds like pretty much back then green stamps were earned by spending money, whereas nowadays you get that kind of deal by using credit cards. Things have changed, all right, and I'm not going to get into that subject. Lye tank, stiff nylon brush, uh, dent pick, didn't get that. If necessary, oh, dental pick if necessary for cleaning the stick pans. Yeah, those things can be pretty annoying to clean, yes, but they can be cleaned. So I sneezed on an auction and missed my opportunity. Oh, sorry to hear that, Dean. Miss Mobley in the window reflection. Yes, indeed. That is your Miss Mobley right over there. Let me give her a little cameo over here. So hey Mobley. Hello. Hello, Miss Mobley. I mean, Miss Mobley has always been more shy and nowhere near as crazy as my dear Trouble was. But she again, she's adorable, and I'm so glad that she's here. So lately, in fact, she has been jumping into my lap as I've been sitting on the chair to get some attention, and so I'm actually quite happy about that. Anyway, Lodge has a nice detail brush that works great. I use them in the kitchen and for restoration with nylon bristles. Okay, so I'm very glad to hear about that. All right, and we are still going. I mean, we can probably still go for at least another, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes at least. Because, yeah, I've been enjoying myself, and I can only hope you folks have. So, because, as I said, there never seems to be any end to talking about cast iron. I mean, even though we always go over the same subjects, there's never any ending of the discussion about those subjects, such as cleaning in a fire, for instance. Or grill pans or Scotch bowls, and I'm really glad to be able to talk about these subjects. Even though I don't, a lot of these are some things I don't have in my collection. I mean, I'm very glad to talk about them, and I'm learning things too. So yeah, please keep going with the questions. I have no problem at all about it. Whether you want to talk about something modern, like this specialty pan here, the New York Skillet, or if you want to get into vintage stuff, like what do I have here? Oh yeah, this one, for instance, is a Wagner Ware number 4, and because it actually has a heat ring, which means it's an older model Wagner. So I might suggest that this may be around the 1920s or so. So I'm quite about happy about that. Rick Stumbau, the Chinese invented cast iron to cook, probably the bamboo bristle brush to clean it too. Oh yeah, I've seen those bristle brushes that they use especially for cleaning their woks. And yeah, they do an amazing job on that, don't they? Just deglaze your grill pan, no scrubbing needed. Okay, Eric D. Slider. What do you look for when you are shopping for iron? What do I look for? Well, I always keep an eye out for things that are extremely rare that I've been hunting for a long time. Like that Red Mountain number 12 Dutch oven that I'm looking for instance. But really, I would say whatever suits your need. And it's different for everyone, which is why I'm not much of a person to recommend what you should get, other than, as I mentioned already, for your first cast iron pan, get a 10-inch number 8 cast iron skillet. But other than that, your needs are not the same as my needs. I already said I'm not crazy about a grill pan, and yet I've got a friend who loves her grill pan. She's not me, I'm not her. So it's really different for everyone. If you're a seller, for instance, then you're probably looking for anything that might get you a good deal, and which is fine because that's what you do. You sell. On the other hand, if, say, for instance, you do a lot of grilling and the like, and you regularly use cast iron on your smoker, you would probably really be looking more for something that might go better into a smoker, like maybe one of those longer grill pans, for instance. Ugh. Like, for example, the BSNR fish fryer pan here, which, by the way, this is a wonderful piece of cast iron. And this is another one that anybody who's lucky enough to own one of these, I have no doubt you get a ton of use out of this. This is really useful. But yeah, having one of these on the smoker, for instance, this is really great. So, but as I said, it's really something that depends on your needs. The Pel Pal. What do you think of helper handles? I love them. I have no problem at all with them. I mean, I don't see any reason not to have them because they're very convenient. I mean, they may make the pan a little bit longer in length, but I do not have any problem at all with helper handles. Whether it's the way that Lodge is now putting them on everything that they make, or even in the older days, there were some pans made by, like, say, Wagner, for instance, that actually did have helper handles, even if many of them did not. So I am very much in favor of helper handles. Here in Iowa, Dean Reedy, BSR 35810 Century is pretty common. What do I look for? Says Think SNO, or Thanks No. What do I look for? A good ring. Hit it with your knuckle, not hard. The ring tells all. Yeah, the ring test is not 100% accurate, especially if you're dealing with a crusty old pan that has decades worth of buildup on it. There are a lot of people who have stripped off a lot of buildup on those crusty old pans and still found a crack underneath. But in general, yes, you're correct. A lot of times the ring test will work and it will help. So that's definitely something. And that's one advantage you have with the treasure hunt. You can do that. You can't do that with an eBay listing. Cynthia Wesley would love to know more on those Lodge older markers. X is seen a lot and so is Y. And unfortunately, I'm not really much of an expert on the Lodge markers. And in fact, nobody is, because Lodge lost a lot of their old records of those. There were two major fires at Lodge that really destroyed a lot of their records, and so a lot of those markers are lost. And it's really internet research more than anything else that's bringing a lot of them back, like the famous blob, for instance. The blob in the Lodge cast iron pans is generally considered to be a marker that's actually a newer pan, for example. Or then there's the heart that is also not very common, and it's enough that people are starting to make that into a collector's item, the little heart mark on Lodge pans. The X and the Y, your guess is as good as mine, and there are probably Lodge experts, and I'm not one of them, who may suggest that it might have been a shift mark, second shift, maybe even third shift, and that might indicate when they were made, perhaps. So, how to tell old Lodge versus new? Well, that's on one hand, there are some markings that can make it easy to identify Lodge, but apparently they used a lot of their markings for a long time, decades even. I have been chastised rather strongly by Lodge experts who, when I claimed that a couple of my three-notch Lodge pans may have dated to the 1940s or 1950s or so, when in fact they told me that that they were probably made more towards the 1960s, even all the way to the 1980s. Let me dig up an example of that. Here it is. Because get this. Here is a Lodge number 6. And 6 is an unusual size for Lodge. But here is it's a 3-notch Lodge. You see here are the notches and everything like that. And notice it has the blob mark on it that I was just mentioning. And on the other hand, it's actually definitely ground down. It has some nice mill marks on the surface here, very circular. And folks, I have since learned that these mill marks are an indication that this was actually made when Lodge brought in automated production, which from my understanding was sometime after BSNR did. So we're talking like maybe the late 1960s or so. So this, even though I would have thought initially from the three notches and the fact that it does not say SK, I would have called this a 1940s to 1950s lodge. But because it has things like the blob on it and the fact that it has mill marks on it, I'm told that this is more like as I said, 1960s to maybe 1970s, maybe even 1980s lodge. So I stood corrected on this. So there are some indications of when some lodge pans can be easy to identify, um, but some apparently they tended to mix and match. So you stole my lucky streak, Ricky. Is your Bob skillet behind you rusting? No, it's not rusting. It is actually, but it does definitely have some coloration now that I've used it over a gas stove, and of course I had to grease it down after I washed it. So it is no longer brand new. The company that, well, yeah, I know. I said that that this is the result of a meteor strike. Although there is a company on Etsy that makes pans, specialty cast iron pans, and that's all I'll say about that. But nonetheless, when they make this thing here has a very beautiful. It looks like a bronze finish underneath. But as you can see, do some cooking with it, and that coloration will fade, and it will take on more discoloration like we have here. But I can safely say this is not rust. And so I'm happy to keep on using it and to give good old, and so I'm getting to give good old J.R. Bob Dobbs a good burning, which is certainly something that he deserves. Okay, let me put this back here. Oh, shut up. Quickly as I can. There we go. Clang, clang, clang. Imagine all the gravy they made. That blob is weird. I've never seen it. Yeah, there are quite a few pans around there. And Cynthia Wesley, don't believe that it's that old, CI. Yeah, yes. Well, as I said, I will agree with you on that. Initially, I thought it was old and I was wrong. And I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong. You know, there are some people, nobody here, as far as I know, but there are some people who would pretty much go to the ends of the earth rather than admit they're wrong. But hey, we're talking cast iron pans here. We're not talking politics or religion. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. Big deal. I still have the pan and I'm still going to keep cooking in it. So I need a Snoop Dogg cast iron. I'm sure he probably has had one made. So, okay. And going along here, don't let the date snobs get to you. If they don't make it today, it's a keeper. Oh, yeah. Any pan can be a keeper. I mean, at the beginning, I showed off my Asian made pans. I showed off those Walmart cookie skillets, for instance. I showed off that Asian made pan that I think is the model of the pan in Tangled. And for that matter, here are a couple of other Asian made pans that they're already trying to pass off as collector's items, namely the Star Wars skillets that they have been selling at Walmart at just around this time of year at Christmas. Although I looked today, did not see these yet. Granted, it's only the beginning of November. They could very well still put them into stock. The Star Wars skillets, again, they've been doing this now for the past 3 years. And in the past 3 years, they have come up with four different designs. I don't know if there's going to be a new one or not this year. You never know. And those designs were BB-8. This thing unfortunately has a little bit of rust on it. I've got to clean old BB-8 off here. And there is um what's this baby Yoda? I forget his name. Grogu, I think it is. Yeah, Grogu was a big hit when he came out. And then there's good old Darth Vader, who has been with every Star Wars re-release of this every year up through last year, and he's probably going to be with us forever because he's Darth Vader and he's always popular. And then last year they did a Boba Fett pan as well. So I guess it really depends on how popular these Star Wars series are going to come and go. BB-8, I don't think we're ever going to see him again because the Star Wars movies, well, they've kind of developed their own reputation, and I'm not going to get into that. Like I said, Darth Vader will be with us forever, so there's probably going to be a Darth Vader pen every year. Depending on whether or not the book of Boba Fett is popular in the long run, or whether the Mandalorian is popular in the long run, as to whether they will be reproducing the Boba Fett and the Grogu pans. So, which kind of means that maybe Darth Vader is going to be a collector's item, and maybe he won't. If they keep reproducing him every year, maybe not, but who knows? So, all right, I thought I was wrong once, but I was wrong. How can I join the Church of the Subgenius? Oh, that's easy. Go to subgenius.com and you will get all the information you need to sell your soul to J.R. Bob Dobbs. Salvation has gone up in the Church of the Subgenius. It's now $45, when in the older days it was $20 and then $30. But, well, that's how it goes. Anyway, as I said, for information on the Church of the Subgenius, go to subgenius.com. And I hope that helps. So, all right. Well, we've certainly been going on here for a while. So, Cast Iron Fanatics, thoughts on BSR Red Mountain lid for $20? Get it! Are Red Mountain Dutch oven lid and skillet lids interchangeable? Yes, they are. But yeah, if you can get a Red Mountain lid for $20, I would definitely say get it, as long as you have a use for it, that is. Well, one use for it, of course, would be to fit on your BSR skillets because, they don't fit on lodge lids and vice versa. Lodge lids will not fit on BSR. They don't fit on lodge pans, and lodge lids will not fit on BSR skillets. But these were indeed interchangeable. They were made exactly the same for the skillets and the Dutch ovens. So this number 8 Red Mountain lid here will also fit on a Red Mountain Dutch oven. On the other hand, I happened to get that Red Mountain Dutch oven, which came with its own lid, and there was no way I was going to say no to that, so I just happened to have 2 Red Mountain lids. But that's how it goes. Jimmy Langford, I keep telling myself to start selling some of my cast iron, but I get too attached to every piece, even after this haul today. Oh, yeah, I know that feeling all too well. I did manage to trim down my collection somewhat earlier this year, and I'm actually happy about that. Maybe that's a sign then that, consider, even though a lot of these pans do have sentimental value, there are some of them that I found I was able to end up getting rid of. I mean, I've got more than enough cast iron to use, and if nothing else, it has made it somewhat easier to rotate through my collection. Although I'm still working on it. What can I say? I've got to keep working on it. I mean, heck, just recently I made some good use of my cauldron here, the South African poiki, and I'm happy about that. I've recently used a number of my BSR pots, including the big BSR Dutch oven. So again, I'm happy about that. All I can do is just keep on cooking, and that's all you can do as well, folks. As I said already, the best way to use these pans is to keep on cooking. Don't cook on edibles, kids. Just wrong. Yeah. Just turn on the wrong burner and melted a plastic cutting board. Ooh, sorry about that. Wisdom Studio, I wanted to say, recent show about making gumbo. I was skeptical any of you Yankees would know what you're doing. Well, I've had some experience. I've made gumbo several times now, so I'm kind of getting the hang of it. And frankly, gumbo is not that hard to make. The hardest part, of course, is the roux. And there's no way around that. But the rest, well, thank you very much for the compliments, though, Wisdom Studio. That's the best I could say. Okay, I usually pick up any orphan lids that I find at a reasonable price. Yes, there's always a use for a lid. How do you like cooking on gas? I love it. It is, I mean, it is so much better, I think, than my old electric stove. My electric stove worked great, but I find the gas heats up the cast iron faster. And in fact, I got to be careful. I don't want to get cracked from thermal shock, especially with winter coming on. But yeah, I really like the way the gas stove heats up the cast iron. That may be the number one thing about it. So it's great in that respect. You know how to make the roux? Well, yeah, I've learned that from experience. But again, thank you very much, Wisdom Studio. Anyway, you need to pare down now and then. Some things were fun at the time, but they don't get used now. Yeah, there is that question as well. So, I mean, that's why I even got rid of a couple of my Cracker Barrel skillets, in that I don't have a complete collection of all of the Cracker Barrel skillets, and I never will. And I don't need a complete collection of the Cracker Barrel skillets. The ones that I have, I'm definitely keeping, and then they are going to be for sentimental reasons. So that I have the Cracker Barrel Great Seal skillet, for instance, when they got it several years ago. This year, they released the same design with a 12-inch, which was really impressive. But I didn't get it because I don't need another 12-inch skillet. On the other hand, those of you who scored the Cracker Barrel 12-inch skillet this year, congratulations. You definitely have an heirloom that could very well be a collector's item. Then it will certainly last you the rest of your life. Hold on, energy saver is turned on. Oh, no wonder. I've all this time, excuse me 1 second. I've been running on battery here. I forgot to turn on my power strip. Ugh, my bad. Wow. Thank goodness I've got a good battery on this thing. Sorry about that, but we're almost done anyway. Okay. Okay, lids are hard to find around here. Yeah, that's the thing. That is one of the general rules of the hunt as well. I would say be sure to pick up stray lids as soon as you can find them. So, and I don't have any objection about that either. All right, lids are hard to find. I had 3 episodes on my YouTube of me searching for it and restoring cast iron. Well, thank you very much, Wisdom Studio. And again, I'm more than happy to have been able to help you with that. And with that, I think we may very well be all set for now, because we've certainly been going on. I mean, we could keep going on, but what can I say? First of all, I did all that cooking just the other night, so that's why I'm glad this was just a nice and easy chat tonight. And we've got more cooking coming along this week as well. You know why? Because I've got all that candy. And like I said, I need to make a big garbage cookie to use up all that candy. And I'm certainly using it. Certainly looking forward to that. I like calling soup gumbo online, so Southerns waste their time losing their minds. Oh, yeah, there we go. Trolling. That's one of the big things to do on the internet. If you ever come down to New Orleans, we'll go out hunting for cast iron. I'm looking forward to it. And if I ever come down to New Orleans, well, yeah, of course, I've got to try some Cajun cooking. I also want to try nutria. Yes, I do. Because I've said so many times that I would eat rat if it was prepared right. And that's part of my whole spiel about how I've been trying so many new things, and I find myself saying that if I've never tried it before, then I have to try it. And that would include rat meat, which is why I want to try nutria if I ever have the chance. Okay, and well, thank you very much, Ace Maduro. I'm not sure if I deserve that. So. And Jim F., thank you very much. And thank you to everybody, though. Thank you for taking the time to be here tonight. I mean, with 77 people here, even just for my walk around and talking and answering questions, that's very, very flattering. I can only thank everybody for your patience and I guess for enjoying this. I do my best to keep you entertained because it's a lot of fun. And that, of course, is the number one reason for any of this, whether it's hosting this YouTube channel or cooking in cast iron in particular, because it's fun. And it is fun, and I'm very happy about that because, it's a lot. It brings a lot of enjoyment, and it's something that I want to keep doing. And that's especially why I'm so glad that you folks show up here every week. And I can thank so much for that. And thank you to everybody, just Chris McGee, and Eric D. Sliter, and Deepel Pal, and Cynthia Wesley, Pat Z, Greg Hart, and Dean Reedy and so many others. You know, this is almost like, here we go again, romper room. This is the part where she would hold up the magic mirror, which wasn't really a mirror, and look through it and name everybody's names. And we all hope that she called out our name. But thank you again to Jimmy Langford and RT Scott and so many others, and praise Bob Wisdom Studio. And if you're in town, oh, definitely, yeah. As soon as I get the chance, we will. I would love. I have yet to visit Louisiana, and it is one of those things that is on my bucket list. Hopefully, I'll be able to get down there soon. But thank you so much to everybody. Yeah, that's all too true, G. Humphrey. I mean, now that Halloween's over, that's all we're seeing in the store. Of course, we still have Thanksgiving to look forward to, too, which is a great reason as well, as I've said before, to own a big cast iron pan or more than one, or at least to have a number of cast iron pans, because then you're going to have yourself a happy Thanksgiving. And I can definitely say that we'll all be saying Happy Thanksgiving in just a couple of weeks now. And thank you as well, Rick Stumbaugh. Thank you for coming into my home here on this chat, and have a great and enjoying yourself. So thank you so much, and Honey J Badger and so many others. So I can only thank you everybody for your time, and we will we'll just keep on cooking. All of you have a good evening, and have fun, folks. And so that's why I can only say, as I like to say again, see you next Wednesday.